Welcome to the first episode of Crimes of the Shadows, where we deep dive into the minds and mysteries of history's darkest criminals. Today's episode takes us to post-war England, a time of rebuilding and hope, but behind the facades of civility lurked a man with a monstrous secret. John Haigh, a killer whose weapon of choice was not a gun or even a knife, but industrial sulfuric acid. John Haigh was born in 1909 in Stamford, Lincolnshire, England, raised in a strict religious household under the Plymouth Brethren Act. High's childhood was marked by isolation and severe discipline. His parents preached fear of sin and often showed him images of hellfire and suffering. Whether that upbringing sparked something darker within him or simply stifled any sense of empathy is still debated to this day. Despite an early talent for music and academics, Haigh drifted into crime during his young adult years. Forgery and fraud became his livelihood, and prison his second home. But it wasn't until he discovered an article about sulfuric acid dissolving flesh that his crimes took a deadly turn. Haigh believed that if there was no body, there could be no crime. That belief laid the foundation for a series of murders that began in 1944. His victims were not strangers. They were people he befriended, manipulated, and murdered, all for his profit. His first known victim was William McSwan, a wealthy man whose disappearance Haigh covered up by dissolving his body in an acid bath. Haigh then took possession of McSwan's property and finances. When McSwan's parents grew suspicious, they too were lured to their deaths and met the same gruesome end. Sulfuric acid became Haigh's calling card. He would rent a warehouse, set up barrels filled with the corrosive liquid, and plan each murder meticulously. After dissolving the bodies, he poured the sludge down the drains or buried the remains. But despite his efforts, he wasn't quite the perfect criminal he fancied himself to be. It was the disappearance of Miss Olive Duran Deacon in 1949 that finally led to Haigh's arrest. When police searched the warehouse, they found bone fragments, a lipstick container, and gallstones, items that could not be dissolved. That evidence sealed his fate. Haigh's trial began in July 1949 and lasted just 2 days. His defense attempted to claim insanity, referencing his dreams of blood and sacrifice. But the jury did not buy it. The evidence was overwhelming. He was found guilty and sentenced to death. On August 10, 1949, John Haigh was hung at Wandsworth Prison. He was 40 years old. The acid bath murders shocked the nation, still recovering from the horrors of war. Haigh's story is a haunting reminder of how charm, intellect, and cruelty can intertwine. He wasn't a madman in the traditional sense. He was calculating and methodical. And the idea that he believed bodies alone were the key to conviction is terrifying in its own logic. Stay tuned for the next episode where we peel back the layers of another infamous mind. Until then, stay curious and stay safe.